Let's go, Alan. Let's go.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like the trend that we've been doing of not talking about what's on the thumbnail.
We are talking about it. We are talking about it. Just so I like, it's so funny. Like, someone called me out in a comment on our video saying, why is it that every Godzilla fan feels the need to qualify how long they've been a Godzilla fan and describe their love for Godzilla? Because we do. It's been around for 70 years. As I drink from a Godzilla mug, and I have a bootleg Godzilla Lego figure that you can see. I don't know if you can see it right here, but this is bootleg. It doesn't actually exist. But yeah, I've been a long-time Godzilla fan since I was a kid. There have been more serious Godzilla movies, of course. The original as it was made, black and white, the original Japanese film, is a classic. And if you've seen the original, you should see the original subtitled version and the Raymond Burr version to see how much they changed it. They added Raymond Burr, of course, for the US release. And Godzilla, the fact that Godzilla has sustained as a franchise, the only other thing you could compare it to is maybe James Bond, but they've made more Godzilla movies than they've made James Bond movies. But this is a franchise that has existed since the 50s and is going strong. And guess what? And we'll see with the test of time. For my money, this is the best Godzilla movie ever made for a couple reasons. One is you're fully engaged in the human story. The story of the human characters is just as compelling as the threat of Godzilla itself. The director, Takashi Yamazaki, made this film for $15 million. Hollywood should be ashamed that this movie was made for $15 million. Now, Takashi Yamazaki, I've watched a whole bunch of videos of him talking about making the film. He is also the VFX supervisor. So when you have someone who actually understands visual effects as the director of the movie, rather than, well, I'm just going to shoot you against a green screen and send it off to the VFX people to do it. No, you need a marriage of the person who's making the movie, the director, to have an innate understanding of it. But the story of a young kamikaze pilot who basically fails at his job, wants to live, and is burdened with the guilt of he did not fulfill his duty, and was partially also responsible for seeing a smaller version of Godzilla. Most of this is in the trailer and the reviews. There's a smaller version of Godzilla that's like 25 feet high that then grows to massive size after nuclear bombs are let off in the ocean. It grows to a monstrous mutated version of that creature. And it's set in, of course, it's a period piece set in post-World War II Japan during the Reconstruction. The main character ends up befriending a woman who has basically adopted a young child that was left on the street, orphaned, and they form sort of a broken family. And in the midst of this, Godzilla reappears in the form of a monstrous, mutated, giant form of Godzilla that we're familiar with. The story itself is filled with pathos, likable characters, and it's effectively a Japanese melodrama, which is what the first movie was. The very first black and white film from 1954 was a melodrama. This is also a melodrama with high stakes. And there's a scene with a boat on the ocean where they're basically dispensing with the mines that have been placed around Japan. They've got this little wooden tugboat. And there is a scene right out of Jaws that is frightening. Godzilla is not just a force of nature, actually scary. And there's so many amazing things to praise about this film, not just the visual effects, the portrayal of Godzilla, the massive carnage when Godzilla finally comes to shore and is responsible for the deaths of 30,000 people. And you don't just see Godzilla crash into a building and sort of like, you assume there are people in there, you see people. You see people meet an end and meet their fate. And it's horrific what you see. And they've added a little bit to the lore where Godzilla has something of a healing ability, not unlike Wolverine. And then also when he spouts his flames, it is like a nuclear bomb going off. Absolutely frightening. They've done stuff like that before where his scales on the tail, like they light up, but this, they've done it in a new way, not like we've seen. This film is frightening. It's epic. There were applause breaks at the screening I was at, which was packed full. I cannot praise it enough. And the story of the young pilot, the kamikaze pilot, there's on a redemption arc to fulfill his duty is it's amazing. I cannot praise this film enough. A couple of things that stand out I thought that were interesting is you would think that the Japanese military would be the ones going after Godzilla. There's a great scene where a bunch of the citizens are together. Hey, our city was just destroyed. We need to do something. And a scientist who's he's a little bit of a comic relief character, but it's not like haha funny. He's just amusing. He doesn't break the tone of the film. They come up with this plan, and you see a character say, "We cannot get help from the Japanese government. The Japanese government can't be trusted. The U.S. government's not going to help us. The citizens, we have to do it ourselves." It's a very libertarian view. I absolutely love this film. It's a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10 for me. I can't believe I am seeing the Godzilla movie I imagined in my head as a kid. It's incredible, and I hope that they continue the series with this tone and also with this director. It's fantastic. Rush to see this movie. Go see it in IMAX. I loved it. Alan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we can go back to my early reaction. Yeah, white people, your movies suck.
Why does it have to be white people? Your movies suck. How about this? American? Wait. American movies made by major.
I would say
Hollywood
Western movies suck. And
all right, fine.
Look, first of all, this is whenever people talk about remakes and reboots and all that stuff, this is the perfect example of how to do it right. Because not only do you capture what the original story was, why people like the original story, but now you brought in modern technology and truly updated it. And you spent less than $25 million to do it. Hello Marvel, hello Disney. But the thing that struck me when watching this movie was the opening scene. When that opening scene happened, I was bought in completely. And Godzilla wouldn't even show up he was not even a thought in this movie until 15 minutes in. But it's just the image of a kamikaze pilot flying back to base, not fulfilling his duty, and you see the emotion of that. You see the weight that it carries with this guy. You see the shame that it's like this movie is a human story.
Yes.
And it's just his arc, the people around him, how they eventually come to his side. And the fact that that this failed kamikaze pilot is going to be the hero of this movie, and you're just trying to figure out how is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? I mean, this is that perfect balance of how you tell a great dramatic story with the backdrop of a giant monster trying to destroy your city and kill everyone around you. I mean, it's just brilliant in terms of storytelling. And we, like I said, we have to submit our best picture nominations to the Critics' Choice Association this week. And I asked you, this movie qualifies, right? I could throw this up there, and I'm pretty sure I can. This is definitely my favorite movie of the year, and it just hits all the right moments. And so, yeah, like I said early on, this is a great movie. Set your expectations high. I saw Chrissy Mayer's review of it this morning. Take your girlfriends, they'll love it as well, because there are just so many emotional moments for everybody.
Right.
This movie's for everybody, and it is a horror film. It's definitely a horror film.
it's a horror film and it leans into humanity, and it's heartbreaking because every character is broken at the
Mhm.
beginning of the movie from what they suffered during the war, right? So
Yeah.
post World War II, Japan is decimated and everyone has lost someone. Everyone has lost
Everyone has
someone,
lost everything,
right? And
and they're about
everything's
to
lost.
lose everything again.
So here there's this broken family where the guy basically the lead character, and I'm gonna pronounce his name incorrectly. Alan, I'll leave it to you.
Okay, I gotta find.
But there are interviews. The actor, the character is Shikishima,
Yeah.
played by Kamiki Ryunosuke.
No, it's
Ryunosuke.
yeah,
But yeah,
Ryunosuke Kimiki.
Shikishima, this character, Kochi Shikishima,
Oh my god, this is
is,
gonna get clipped.
what are you talking about?
No, nothing. Nothing. Keep
What?
going.
What? You mean my terrible pronunciation? How can I? Please. In any case, Shikishima is so, like, you feel for this character. You feel for this character. He's lost his parents. He's lost his family. He has this. He just says to this girl he meets, this young girl who is trying to save a baby, like, sure, you can sleep here, but they never really formally form a family. It's messages about family, duty is just so relatable.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and I think this is going to start a trend. I think this is going to start a trend.
What
How
a
do
good
you?
movie.
Yeah, one, good movies, characters you care about,
Mhm.
characters you care about, and but not just that. It's the setting of it. They went back to the time when Godzilla was first made in terms of the era, right?
Yeah.
It's the
The end.
40s.
I mean, that was the one thing that stood out. This happens at the end, near the end of the World War II.
Right.
The Japanese knew they were losing, and one person says, "I get it." You know, was is it worth dying at this point?
Right. Right. Well, this is the thing is I think this could start a trend of how are you going to remake James Bond? Set it in the 1960s.
Mhm.
Make James Bond a total sexist a-hole like he is in the books. Um, make an X-Men movie and set it in the 1960s. I would
Make a
argue
Fantastic Four movie.
the
Set
Fantastic Four movie, you
In
know
fact,
what?
restart the MCU and start in the 60s.
Started in the 60s when these characters were born. I just watched recently a documentary about Stan Lee, that was on Disney Plus in June. You can still see it. It's I forget the name of it. And it's unbelievable the amount of creativity that was in the 60s
Mm.
when they created all these characters and how Marvel survived certain eras, and went through different eras, the 70s and 80s. I think we are in the dark times now of that kind of creativity. But the best X-Men film, I would argue, is the Matthew Vaughn movie, which was set in the 60s.
Mhm.
So I don't know why they don't just this is just a way to reinvigorate a franchise, is go back to the roots. Go back to the roots. They went back to the roots.
It's hard to lecture people from the 60s. That's
And
the problem.
right. It's just, and also it presents different challenges. I don't like that it's getting almost annoying. Like every Marvel film or every tech movie, even like the Mission Impossible movies, everything is like a tech device that does this with a 3D screen. And like, it's like, it's, I don't know. And then you always have to explain why, oh, my cell phone doesn't work, or I've only got 10% battery. There's our ticking clock. It's lame. I like going back to an era where technology was a challenge.
You know what? You bring this up, but someone asked in the early review, but you know, the Japanese weren't supposed to have a naval fleet,
Right.
and they explained it in this way,
Yes.
and it was plausible. I mean, the just the cleverness of the story itself. They were able to look. It's not perfect. I'm sure there's holes. I'm not thinking of any plot holes at the moment, but they explained as much as they could to make this movie, feel like it could actually have worked in the early days of the New Japan at that point.
Yeah. I cannot praise this film
Mhm.
highly enough. A director who is a visual effects supervisor, who is who understands tone. That I
Mhm.
think is the thing that makes this film. And I have seen serious Japanese dramas. This is just it's like you could cut Godzilla out of this and it would still be an interesting story because you care about these characters. That's an interesting story unto itself. Throw Godzilla in the mix and it takes on epic proportions. So strong recommendation. And this movie is on my top 10 list for the year. So there you go.
By the way, when that little girl cried, it was heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking because I mean,
we've seen it. We've seen that. We've seen babies cry like that.
Yeah.